Hi everyone, welcome to this week's Halton Hills housing update. So last week was definitely an improvement versus the really low numbers we saw the previous week, but it's still kind of a bit off compared to what we were seeing in the summer. So let's take a look at what happened last week in Halton Hills. So in Georgetown last week, our sales were up slightly to 18 properties sold, but that is still pretty down from the high numbers we were seeing in some of the weeks in August. Of those 18 properties, 10 of them sold over asking, so it is still quite busy. We had high inventory enter the market though. We had 31 new listings, so 2 relists, so technically 29 new properties enter the market. So I anticipate next week, because again, of the holding off of offers, everything's sort of shifting 5 days. I think our sales numbers will be back up again next week. I think we just had this weird lull where people were holding off because of school. It is clear that people were getting their homes ready and listed it after the long weekend. So I think that inventory is definitely going to help our sales numbers. Kind of a slow week in Acton last week, probably our lowest number in a while. We had 3 properties sell, 2 of them were over asking. So still that demand, but just kind of, I think, another in-between week. We had 6 new properties enter the market. So the good news is inventory should be up there because we were very low in inventory in Acton last week. So absolutely nothing happened in Glen Williams this week. In Limehouse, no sales, but we did have 1 new listing enter the market. In the rural market this week, we had 2 properties sell, which is pretty normal. We did have 5 new listings enter the market, so inventory will be up there. It has been pretty steady with sales, but we have seen inventory steadily climbing in those areas. And we've sort of talked about sometimes how the rural market capitalizes on a market like this. So I do think those people are trying to get their houses on the market. So hopefully they can sell in fewer days on market than would be standard for a rural property. So let's look at active listings right now. We had very low inventory last week, but thankfully because of the new inventory, we are back over 100 active listings. We're at 104 active listings. Of those, 12 are in the sold conditional status. So that is good news overall. I mean, in comparison, it's still super low from the like 120 plus. It's definitely an improvement that I think any of us will take right now. In Georgetown, we have 53 active listings, which is still a low number of active listings. All of our price points that we usually watch are up because overall inventory are up. But I would say aside from the million plus, we are still sitting with low numbers in the categories. So under 700,000, we only have 10 active listings. 5 of them are condos, so really not a lot available for people. Between 7 and 800,000, there's 4 active listings, and those will probably be updated as sold pretty quickly because I think offer nights on most of those were Monday. So I anticipate maybe 7 to 8 is going to drop this week if we don't see a lot of new listings come in that price point. 800 to $1 million is up to 12 active listings, but again, still not even close to the number we need to meet the demand in that really busy price point. So over $1 million this week is up to 27 active listings, which is a fine number for there. We have been seeing more sales than we are accustomed to above that $1 million price point. So as sales pick up again, getting into September, I anticipate we'll see that $1 million plus maybe take a bit of a drop. I'll tell you, I had a $1.3 million listing this week, and I cannot believe the demand in that price point. I had 60 showings on that property. So that means there's still 59 people looking at $1.3 million in Georgetown. It is going to be a very long time before our inventory can meet our demand right now. In Acton this week, we have 13 active listings, which is still low for there, but it's up, so that's good. We have very little under the busy price point of 700,000. I think there's only 3 or 4 properties available under 700. So if you have been thinking about moving up in Acton, there are some higher price point properties. So maybe take a look at those and get your property on the market like ASAP. Glen Williams, we have 4 active listings, which is the same as last week. Limehouse is up slightly to 4 active listings, which is actually a high number for Limehouse, but again, bigger ticket properties there. And Rural, I think this is the first time this year we have seen 30 active listings in the rural market. That's a pretty high number. So again, we saw inventory go up this week and sales weren't really matching that. So I think that now that kids are back in school, we are going to see sales kind of pick up again this week. So overall, the last 2 weeks have been kind of strange compared to what we were seeing this summer, but I don't really think we are fixing our inventory problem. And I think now that everything's getting settled, we are going to see sales pick back up. Something I'm going to be watching very closely is what happens with our COVID cases. If you are not following this, we have seen a pretty dramatic spike over the last week in our COVID cases. And yesterday we had our highest number of cases since June. So we are gonna have to see what Doug Ford does with all of this. If we go back to a shutdown, I mean, we saw it happen in March. Within 2 weeks of a shutdown, our real estate market came to almost a halt. I do think we have, again, that pent up inventory, so we'll see some trickling sales. But if these COVID cases start to spiral out of control, I mean, we're gonna have to see what happens with the real estate market, but we saw what happened in April and it was not good. So I think next week's market update is gonna be really interesting. And by then, I think we're going to have an idea of what's happening with COVID. So come back next Tuesday and see what's happening in the Halton Hills housing market. Have a great week, everyone.